This is the Dull Man's Podcast, the podcast for dull men
and women
who get excited about dull things.
Hello and welcome to another Dull Man's Podcast. Joining me in the studio today, I have Faye Hatcher.
Hello.
Faye, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm trying to do my best 1940s BBC impression
Doing
here.
it very well and successfully, mate.
Well, thank you very much. How have you been these
Yes,
last...
very good. Thank you. Enjoying the spring weather and a little bit of sunshine. It's been, it just lifts the spirits.
And now, of
doesn't
course,
it?
we're in British summertime,
Oh,
which
yeah.
we talked about last time. Yeah, exactly. So
Thanks for that education, Dave, because
Wow.
I wouldn't have known whether I was coming or going or milking a cow.
And that's the voice of Deech
Yeah.
that you can hear there, the top 800 comedian.
Yeah.
Or top 798, 797, 796.
It goes up and down. It's
Yeah.
It's the needle dial.
There or thereabouts. How have you been, Deech?
I've been well.
What are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about the evolution of screwing.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
It's very carry on, isn't it?
Yeah. Mrs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. People have been screwing for millennia.
Have they?
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. Right. Well, stay tuned to find out a little bit more about that. Is this podcast going blue? We'll see. And Faye, who's on the blue microphone, what are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about other people's to-do lists.
Oh, you do seem to find these fantastically dull subjects.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. And I'm going to talk about an author called Douglas Adams. And some of you listening will know immediately that Douglas Adams was the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So we're going to talk a little bit more. He was a remarkable guy, and I think he's very well worthy of a chat on this podcast. So that's all coming up on the Dull Man's Podcast.
Let's do it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for feedback. This is always my favourite section because usually people are slagging off Deech, which is great. But
Usually.
But first of all, we're going to, in our feedback section tonight, we're going to hear once again from Glynis from Solihull, who is
awesome.
We cannot stop him sending in voicemails. He just voice notes.
He's a man possessed.
He loves to comment on our podcast, and we're very grateful, Glynis. So please keep them coming in all the way from Solihull. And this week, well, I won't tell you what he's talking about because it's obvious when I play it. So get your headphones on and have a listen.
Now then, raised beds. I was excited when I heard you were going to talk about these because I thought it might be a solution to my knee problem to have a raised bed, but no, it was all about gardening. Oh. Well, the one good thing about that article, it seemed to me, Dave, was that you found a third way of deterring slugs from getting into your raised bed, which you didn't mention. It's not about the copper strips. It's not about the salt. It's not about the fact that it's raised. It's about the very clever fact that you haven't put any succulent vegetables into your raised bed. And as a result of that, not a single slug has gone there. Brilliant.
Well, thank you, Glynis from Solihull. That he's not wrong. That the main reason I have not got any slugs yet is there is not a single vegetable.
Is it still empty?
Bed. Yeah, I'm afraid it is. Yeah, I keep meaning to do it.
Has it ever had anything growing in there?
No, not yet. No.
What's the plan for it then?
It's just I'm going to. The plan is to put succulent vegetables in, but we'll see whether the copper strips.
Maybe it's going to work. That the slugs see the raised bed, they go up. They realise there's nothing inside, then they retreat. They keep doing this. And after 6 months of them wasting their own time, they'll just assume it's empty. So you will then have a raised bed free of slugs for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, because they'll have learned.
Yeah.
They
very
do,
hard
and nature
lesson.
does learn.
Yeah, they've evolved. The slugs have evolved not to bother with my raised bed. That's fantastic. Yeah, I must talk to Richard Dawkins about that one. See if that's see if evolution is likely to help.
Very religious slugs. Yeah. They've got their own cult.
So there's also some feedback, Deech, which I hope you'll be pleased to know this. We had lots of feedback about your 6-step curry eating.
Okay, yes, good.
So
people have been getting stuck in.
Faye and I have both got a few little email things that have come in. So, Faye, would you like to read one of yours?
Yeah, this is from Jane, and she starts by saying, thank you so much.
Yeah.
She's
It's
very
nice, isn't
grateful.
it?
Oh, yeah.
Very
Me and
grateful.
Jane.
I'm going to print the instructions out and laminate them ready for the next time I partake in a korma. Just to clarify, though, in step 1, does the distribution of food need to be in 3 distinct piles, sorted by food type, or just generally spread around the plate? And thanks again for sharing this. No, thank you for sharing this revolutionary solution to, in brackets, hopefully stress-free curry consumption. That is a beautifully
I'm
written.
feeling important.
I'm wondering whether Jane is actually a mate of
I think it's
Deech's.
Deech.
Yeah.
It is
I
actually
can
his wife.
guarantee I'm not Jane and I don't know Jane. I would say that's user's choice, because something we discussed a couple of weeks ago was that some people like to do the donut of rice, curry in the middle, volcano, you called
Yeah.
it. You could have 3 separate piles.
Rice.
That would be
sauce
chicken and sauce. No, I think the chicken definitely has to be intermingled with the sauce.
Yeah.
My personal
To
preference.
soak up.
To
like
soak
say
it
it's
up.
like the big sponge, isn't it? It's still soaking up that.
Yeah.
Those
Like
lovely
the
flavours.
like a poultry tenner lady. And
You're
but
obsessed with that, aren't you? You used that example last time. I find it rather tasteless, if I might say. If you don't mind me saying so.
Deech sometimes wears adult nappies when he's doing a gig,
Yeah,
and he's comparing.
he's
and
very
he's
familiar
He's
with it.
needed on stage
Yeah.
a lot, so
Yeah.
Look,
saves time.
you've essentially got an ensuite bedroom if you wear an adult nappy.
Yeah, but that's a tenner man, not a tenner lady.
Exactly.
Presumably.
Well, sometimes I get
No,
kinky days.
Specially sculpted. Listen, can we move on? Because I've got some more feedback.
Yes.
That wasn't the end of it, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I've got another one.
Simon White wrote in and he says, step 1 is correct, but after that, I eat all the lumps of chicken, then calculate the remaining amount of rice and sauce so I know how much to put on each bite of poppadom and or naan bread. Don't want any chicken on the poppadom as the texture clashes. Don't want to finish on a dry poppadom or worse, a dry naan bread. So any comments there?
He's right about you don't want a dry. Oh, actually, I don't mind a dry poppadom. Don't want a dry naan bread. Agreed, Simon. But he's eaten his curry in reverse order to your husband and daughter,
Yeah,
who leave the
meat
chicken.
first.
Now, I do understand leaving chicken to the end because that's the best part. Getting it done at the start.
Yeah.
That's like an excitable 6-year-old, isn't it?
Just
Who
gonna
wants
go
to eat the best
downhill
bit.
after that, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, Simon doesn't say his age, but perhaps he is 6.
Yeah.
Simon, age 6.
Age 6. Listen to the Dollman's podcast. Who's a connoisseur of curry eating?
Have we got time for one more?
Andy says, I shall adopt this immediately.
Yes.
Have you any advice for poppadoms too? How would these ratios equate to a biryani or a bolti?
Oh.
Biryani's all mixed up
Can you
anyway,
go
isn't
straight
it?
across, is what he's saying.
Yeah,
What Andy's
well,
saying.
it works for any curry, Andy. That's good. A biryani is already mixed up.
It's already mixed, isn't it?
It's already mixed up, but you certainly have to pay attention to the meat element in your curry, or if you're going vegetarian, to the main veg which is in there, which I suppose would be potatoes in a biryani. What do you do with poppadom and naan bread? You use it to scoop it up at the end. But there's a lot of YouTube tutorials on how to use a naan bread. Yeah. There's loads. It's a well-fested
I think
ground.
demixing, sort of separating out the meat in a biryani. That would be
A deconstructed
that could
biryani is
take
what
hours.
Gordon
That
Ramsay
could
would
take
call
hours,
it.
and you've got a really cold meal by the end of it. Have
Yeah.
you thought about setting up a outline, a curry outline?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, you
could really
so
max
people
on
at the
this.
curry house,
Yeah.
and they getting a bit upset,
Yeah.
a bit
Yeah,
confused.
don't know what I'm
they
doing.
dial you, Deech. Help! I'm at the Taj Mahal. I need help.
It would need to be like a video call, so I can
Yeah.
see. Okay, angle it down, left a bit, and I'm looking down. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see where you've gone wrong there.
Yeah, except the light levels in curry houses are famously terrible. So you might have to put the torch on the phone at the same time.
Yeah, you'd have to get good lighting. But it's important with a hot curry as well because you can get all the chili peppers in one bit. Do you know what? Do you go for the chili peppers? I always put them towards the end of the curry because if you burn your mouth out first of all,
you can't
Yeah.
taste.
You
what
can't
you're
taste
Because
eating.
one of my
Yeah.
favourite curries is chicken jalfrezi.
Well, that's quite hot for you, Dave. I thought you were too much of a
surprised
snowflake
by
for
that.
that.
Really? You
Yeah.
thought I was a snowflake?
Yeah.
I'm the oldest one here. I'm not a snowflake. I've been eating curry since before you were born,
I put
lad.
you down as Gen Z.
Well, that's very nice. Yeah, but sadly, it's not true. I'm a boomer. But
Chicken booner.
yeah, but, chicken boomer.
Got there
yeah.
before me.
Thank you very much. That's enough feedback. Shall we? Thank you very much for that feedback. That was excellent. Well, I think we should move on. So now it's time for Faye to tell us all about the dullness that is making lists.
Well, it's other people's lists, really, Dave.
Oh, so your lists are okay?
My lists are fine because it helps me get through a pile of work. It's very satisfying striking things off.
It is.
So we're talking about a to-do list here, not a shopping list. Or
Other people's to-do list.
Right, other
we
people's
are
to-do list.
talking about.
And why do they upset you? Because surely they don't really affect
Well,
you.
specifically my husband's.
It's therapy again, isn't it?
It's
Here we go.
therapy.
Coming around these mics is therapy.
Yeah, I mean-
Cheaper than counselling.
Marriage counselling.
You don't share what's on your to-do list, do you, with people in your family?
Can't see the point of that.
My
Members of your
wife is
family.
not interested in my to-do
Not
lists.
interested at all.
No.
So why does my husband think that I'm interested in his to-do
So does he
list?
kind of read it to you every morning?
Pretty much.
Really?
Pretty much,
Wow.
yeah. So he's going through.
Cornflakes, darling, coffee. Here's my to-do list for today.
Is he trying to palm things off to you? Is that what he's trying to do?
No, I don't think so. He's going through a bit of a life appraisal at the moment. So
Right.
he's, ditching the things that he doesn't need. I'm on that list.
He's not buying a soft top MG or something like that, is he?
Maybe it's a midlife
Midlife,
crisis.
yeah.
But I mean, as far as I'm aware, he's always made lists for his work. So jobs that he needs to do in order to do.
I've got
his
some dull
job.
questions in a bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant. Bring it on. But this is more to do with I'm going to do my washing today. I'm going to make the bed today. I'm going to sort out all the clothes that I don't need and take them to the charity shop. I'm going to come on a walk with you and Flea. That's our
Would
dog.
that be on a to-do list?
Yes, why not just be spontaneous? He knows we go 3 times a day. Just come to any of those, dog walks. You haven't got to write it on a list, and you haven't got to tell me that you're coming with me as well.
And is he reading out the full content of his list to you in one shot? It's just sort of one at a time.
Yeah, it's just he's read it in the morning, and he's just then relaying a couple of things.
I wonder if he.
I might be interested.
I wonder, Faye, that it may not be.
Wives rarely are.
It may not be that he thinks you're interested. In fact, when he sort of is honest with himself, he'll know that you're not interested. But what it's doing is it's confirming it in his head.
Oh, okay.
And by reading it out loud, he then has to do it.
He has to do it.
Oh.
Right, okay.
Do you think that's subconscious, that he's doing it for that reason? Or do you think he's on his to-do list, either the first one or maybe the end one, is read out to-do list to wife?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Or
isn't
maybe
that
he
funny?
would put
Sometimes
I don't know,
people write on their to-do list, write a to-do list.
Yeah.
But you're doing it.
Yeah.
You don't really need
Well, at least you get to
write
strike it off as soon as you've started
I've
the right
done
to-do
it.
list. Clunk.
One.
Yeah.
So it could be the last point on his to-do list is read out to-do list to Faye.
Yeah. Risk annoying my wife by reading
Yeah.
the list to her.
And so he reads out the individual items before he strikes them off, or does he get in touch? Well, as soon as he strikes one off,
Before he strikes them off, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And when you're in the same room, or will he phone you up? You're conducting
Usually-
a funeral,
yeah.
and then your phone goes.
Usually when we're in the same room.
Hey, I've just
at
refilled the
home.
pepper pot.
Yeah. at
I
home.
wonder what would be interesting was if he read the list to you at the end of the day, saying, "I've done that.
All
I've
the
done
things.
that.
Oh,
I've
like
done
he's a
that.
good
I've
puppy.
done that." Yeah, he's saying, "Look, I've done it all, Faye. I've
Yeah.
done it all. What
and
a
he
great
has,
husband I am."
He has started, but I don't know what else is on the list. So it could just be, he's highlighting the things that he's done.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
easy
know about
things.
the
Because
things
I
that he
often, when
hasn't
I
done.
do a list, I often write things on that I've already done, just so that because I've got the satisfaction of putting a line through them straight away, so I could say,
fraudster.
"Yeah, I know, exactly, yeah."
That is fraud.
So,
yeah.
so I'm
You've
sitting,
committed fraud.
so I'm sitting in my office after breakfast, and I write, "Have breakfast,
that's like plagiarising.
make coffee, tick."
You are joking.
Am I?
Please tell me you're joking that on your to-do list is not have breakfast.
Well, I'm just saying. No,
It's just
I don't.
making it- it's just an
No, I've never
example.
put that. But the
Right.
point is that
that would have been
I do put stuff on there that I've already done sometimes, just so I can see on the. So then, psychologically, when I'm looking at my list, there are several things ticked off, and that sort of helps me.
Yeah.
Pushes me into the rest of the day.
I think this is
Okay.
it. You've hit the nail on the head. It's psychologically, it helps you move through whatever you need to, whether it's a big pile of work or just little things. It's that feeling of being satisfied and
Yeah.
a sense of achievement. What I do find interesting, though, when it comes to other people's shopping lists, not to-do lists, shopping lists. So you're going to do your big family shop at the supermarket, and in the bottom of the trolley is a shopping list that somebody has left. I love reading those.
Oh, yeah. You
What
see
are
what
they
other people...
making?
Yeah.
What are they
Ooh,
making?
yeah.
And in fact, an artist called Lucy Island Gray
Voyeurism.
made a whole exhibition about other people's to-do lists or
Right.
shopping lists.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, and yeah, she'd just gone round sort of lots of supermarkets. She
What,
came
and
out of
found- and found
yeah,
these
yeah. She
guidelines?
came out
Sent in?
No, she
Oh,
came out
right.
of Sainsbury's one day and saw a shopping list in the bottom of a trolley and thought, how interesting. And so she then gathered.
And you went to this.
Yeah.
By the way,
Shopping
this
list,
word is a word I cannot do. Sorry, I always get exhibition and expedition mixed
okay.
up. But anyway,
And she found out that avocado is the most regularly misspelt word on people's.
Oh, the spelling. That's interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
So that is interesting.
That is interesting.
About other people's
It's nearly
lists and
yeah,
to-do
it's
lists.
It feels like Tracy Emin's Unmade Bed or
Yeah.
something, doesn't
Yeah,
it? You know, it's
totally,
like,
yeah.
It's like a sort of piece of ordinary life.
Yeah.
but
I think we all do
I
them,
think
don't
that's
we?
way better than the unmade bed because it was her own unmade bed, wasn't it?
Yes, Tracy Emin.
So
yeah.
she kind of created that herself. But the shopping list one, that's a lot of work to
Yeah,
do.
it is, isn't
You've
it?
got to tip your hat.
And
Yeah.
what form did the artwork take? Was it just the lists pinned up?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it was
So I don't
kind
know how you get round
So it
sort
was
of copyright
found.
around
That's
that.
called found art, isn't
Yeah,
it? Like,
yeah.
Like Duchamp's urinal. It's
Yes.
just. There you are. There's the art.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, it's great,
excellent.
isn't it? So
Yeah.
that is interesting. I think we do all make lists, don't we? Whether they're just in our head or written down.
I have to
I think
write
they're
them
really
down.
important
Yes.
to, keeping order. But we don't need to hear about everybody else's lists, do we?
Well, Faye, thank you for bringing lists to life for us. That was
You're welcome.
Marvellous.
So, Dave, you're going to be talking about the author Douglas Adams. Is he a particular favourite of yours?
Yeah, I suppose he is actually. Yeah, because he's an English author, humorist, and screenwriter, best known as the creator of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was originally a radio show in 1978. It was on Radio 4, and it was started out as a radio show.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I first became aware of it because I'm old enough to have become aware of it at that age. And then very quickly, those radio shows were developed into books, and it was really the books that I got into, and I read the books avidly. There was
I thought it started as a book, a novel.
no. It started as a radio show, and it became a trilogy of books. There were actually 6, but Douglas Adams insisted on calling it a trilogy.
Right.
And
Part of his humour.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was something like 15 million copies were sold in his lifetime. And this is the sad fact about Douglas Adams. He died very young. So he was born in 1952. He died in 2001.
Right.
And, he had some undiagnosed heart condition, and he'd been at the gym in LA, I think. And
But he was British, right?
he was British.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was born in Cambridge. He was brought up, I think somewhere in North London, something like that. But then he went back to Cambridge University, did an English degree, joined Footlights.
Okay.
I believe he failed on his first attempt to get into Footlights because you have to be invited, but he did get into it eventually, and he worked with some.
So he was a performer
famous
as well.
people.
There as a performer or writer, or a bit of both.
I think he was there as a performer, but writing was his thing really. And what's interesting, he wrote a lot of books in his life, as well as the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He wrote Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which relatively recently was made into a new Netflix show. He also wrote for Doctor Who, which is a little known fact. Yeah, he was a scriptwriter for Doctor Who.
Okay.
And,
so he wasn't like a celebrity scriptwriter. He was just one of the scriptwriters.
He was a scriptwriter, yeah, and he wrote for Monty Python's Flying Circus and things like that in the early days.
I'm embarrassed because I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, he was an amazing guy. He was a self-proclaimed radical atheist. He was an advocate of environmentalism and conservation. He was a lover of fast cars and technological innovation.
Sounds like you, Dave.
He owned one of the very first Apple Macs in the UK. The other thing about him, he was very tall. He was 6'5", I think.
He is just like you, Dave.
Apart from the fact that I'm not very tall, and indeed not very humorous. But other than that,
You make me laugh, mate.
And I think he was a bit of a genius. He got the idea for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in about 1971, and he said he was drunk in a field in Innsbruck, Austria, gazing at the stars.
Right.
And he had been carrying a copy of the Hitchhiker's Guide to Europe around with him, which is an actual book.
Yeah.
And it occurred to him while he was looking at the stars, drunk, that somebody ought to write a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea came from. His quotes are fantastic. He was such a great writer, and there's some really good quotes. So one of the ones I love the most is him talking about deadlines. He was he'd get writer's block, and he hated the process of writing, although he was really good at it, So when a publisher said you got to do this, and he didn't like that, but he still wrote a great deal. But it was hard for him, I think. And one of his great quotes was about deadlines, and he said, "I love deadlines. I love the whooshing noise they make as they go past." Which I think is a great one, and one that all people that have to deal with deadlines should remember.
So, what's your opinion on the original series?
Well, the original radio series.
The original TV series.
Oh, the TV series.
Because that's my first
which
encounter.
came some years later and had some of the same actors in it.
Okay.
I don't know. I remember watching it and enjoying it. I've not watched that for years, but and I suppose it would feel a little dated with the technology and stuff like that, just like old episodes of Doctor Who and that sort of thing. But I think I remember enjoying it. I don't think I thought it was as good as the radio show, because obviously the radio show, the pictures are in your imagination.
Yeah.
Because they always say, don't you get better pictures with radio, because it's all in your brain. And I think that's especially true of this sort of science fiction type genre. And but it was made into a movie.
Yeah, I was going to
With
say, have you
Martin
seen? Yeah,
Freeman,
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
I watched it with my daughter quite recently.
2005.
We were just like, this is wild.
Yeah, I watched it last night because
Did you?
I've got it on DVD, and I wanted to remind myself. I hadn't watched
Yeah.
it for years, and I wanted because I knew I was going to be talking about this today. And I thought I'm going to watch this and remind myself. And it's interesting. I mean, there are some bits of it. Martin Freeman's wonderful. I could watch him doing anything, frankly. Some of it doesn't quite convince me now. You sort of feel. I mean, obviously it's 2005. It's 20 years ago. The special effects are 20 years out of date. If you compare them to modern day films. But there's some really nice bits in it. There's quite a lot of throwbacks in there. We talked about Easter eggs in the previous episode.
Oh, okay. There's Easter eggs in there.
Lots of Easter eggs.
Brilliant.
So the original Marvin from the TV show is in a waiting room when they're waiting to get some forms signed.
Does he speak, or is he just there?
No, he's just there as a member of the crowd.
Did you just spot that?
Yeah, I just spotted it. I thought, that's Marvin from the original.
Oh.
And I don't remember spotting it the first time round, but when I watched it last night, there it is. There's Marvin.
I remember when I was at school, I'm not saying this about you at all, Dave, but all the geeky boys used to read.
And
it's just
dull men. Yeah,
I don't know.
Dull boys.
Do you think it's aimed more at young men? His work.
That's a really good question. I mean, I don't suppose he set out with that in mind, but he was a young man himself, and he was coming up with the ideas, and so maybe it naturally occurred. I mean, men tend to read science fiction more. It's a huge generalisation. I know loads of women who are in science fiction, but it does tend to be men who read it.
But that's why I wondered what age you were and if you were well read before then, because The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a bit of a satire on, well, The Hitchhiker's Guide to Europe. So I wondered if it worked better if you were well read before, that it's...
No, I don't think so. I think it was genuinely very funny.
Do you think it influenced Red Dwarf? Because to me...
Yes.
I remember reading Red Dwarf many years later. Somebody lent me Red Dwarf, and I'd seen it on the telly, but I read the book, the original book, and thoroughly enjoyed the books. I thought they were very funny. Maybe there is... I mean, it'd be interesting to ask the author of Red Dwarf whether they were influenced by Douglas Adams. I think a lot of science fiction writers have been humorous ones have been influenced by Douglas Adams. And he is very, very famous, in that world. Yeah. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows about 42 and the meaning of life.
Yeah.
They say about sci-fi, don't they, that a lot of things come true. So sliding doors, featured on Star Trek. They didn't exist before Star Trek. And then you see them in supermarkets and office blocks, whatever.
And we take them
So
for granted.
has anything come true from Douglas Adams' writing?
Well, the meaning of life is 42.
Right, okay.
So obviously that came true. But, we just don't don't know what
You've confused me
That's
there.
the answer, but we just don't know what the question is. So,
Right.
So that's all come true. I think those books, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they're still very funny to this day. They completely stand up and are worth reading now. So I would recommend anybody goes out, if you haven't read them, go out and get a copy and read it. And now, Deech, you are going to talk to us all about screwing, because that's your thing.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a quickie. So I like construction. I like DIY. I'm dull. I'm no good at it. But the screw is essential. And I have threaded many a screw. But I've got a little YouTube video I'd like us to play, which is about the history of the screw.
An invention that has threaded its way through time to become an essential component in our modern world. Our journey begins in ancient times, where rudimentary forms of screws were used in devices like the Archimedes screw. These early screws were primarily used for tasks like lifting water and grain, showcasing the ingenious principles of rotational motion and mechanical advantage. These primitive screws laid the foundation for the development of more sophisticated designs in the centuries to come. In the Middle Ages, craftsmen refined the art of screw making.
That's a great video, though, isn't it? That's proper.
Yeah, it's manly,
Yeah.
manly voiceover.
And the music makes me lose the will to live. But, you know, apart from that...
That's,
But that style of video,
Yeah.
I mean, they are actually quite informative. But there's something about the presentation, the music, the voiceover, which
it's a bit
just drives me nuts.
Potentially a bit OTT
Yeah,
for the humble screw.
For a dull man like me, it's too exciting, frankly.
What's your favourite screw, Dave?
I think it's probably a Posi-Drive.
Oh, okay. Same question to you, number 2.
So a Phillips, and I say this because I've just bought my first Phillips screwdriver.
Oh,
I know.
Congratulations.
I know. I've wanted one for such a long time to just do those tiny little jobs around the house
Yes.
that your husband never gets around to doing.
No, it's not on his to-do list.
This week I erected a coat hanger in the shape of an octopus.
So like a thing that goes on the wall that looks like an octopus.
Yeah, and his
And you
tentacles.
Oh, yes.
The tentacles are the hooks.
Yeah, I know.
So
Oh,
now
sorry,
you've
yes,
got like a
yes,
really
yes.
drunk-looking
Yeah.
octopus looking at you when you go to the toilet.
And what was the material that you went into? Masonry or wood?
Wood. Yeah.
Wood.
Went into
so
wood.
2 screws, and you
Two
used the
screws.
crosshead to
Yes.
go in there.
Yeah.
Did you do a pilot hole first of all? No. You just went in raw.
with a bradawl.
Well, you can bradle it, then do a pilot hole. But
No,
if it's
just went straight in there.
Straight in.
But because it was a bit high up the door, my husband then thought he'd better get involved and help
Right.
me. Yeah.
Of course, drilling into masonry is a whole different thing, because then we get into the whole issue of raw plugs.
Oh
I
yeah.
am crap at that, but
Or it's rawl, is it? RAWL?
yeah.
I always thought it was raw plug.
I know, it sounds like raw plug, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's RAWL, I think.
But as we learnt in the video there, the screw goes back to Archimedes' time.
Yeah,
where he
that-
invented the Archimedes screw.
Yeah,
Weird. He invented the
As
Archimedes
a way of
screw.
raising water. Up to
Taking
another
water
level.
out of a riverbed to raise it up. And the screw was also used as a part of a press, so you could press things down. So olives, so very Mediterranean.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the screw as a fastener, that became big when the metal lathe was invented. So you could have like a spinning piece of metal, and then you could carve it out. So let me give you some fun facts, because I want to try and win the fact of the week. So Job and William Wyatt of Staffordshire in the UK patented in 1960 a machine that one might today best call a screw machine. It made use of the lead screw to guide the cutter to produce the desired pitch. So they started making screws. The slot was cut with a rotary file. In the 1780s, they were producing 16,000 screws a day with only 30 employees.
Wow.
Before the screw, people would dovetail jointing, which would involve a lot of waste and a lot of wood. That would have.
But incredible craftsmanship.
The dovetail joint is incredible, but you wouldn't have thought about that at the time when somebody thought, well, you can put different bits of wood together by this thing, and they were making 16,000 a day.
Wow.
Which is, an incredible amount That would just revolutionise any kind of furniture making or anything like that.
So how many different materials are screws made out of, Deech? Because you can have brass screws, you can have steel, you can have aluminium, you can have... Well, I don't know, can you have aluminium? They'd be too soft maybe, but...
I don't know the answer to how many there are, but everything you just said is correct.
Why do I feel like I've been doing the research for your subject this week, Deech? Imagine where we'd be without screws, though. I mean, they're in everything, aren't they?
Yeah.
Every single thing that surrounds us.
That is a Monty Python song, isn't it? Imagine where we'd be without screws.
Well, that sounded like Morrissey, actually.
Well,
it could be a
your
Morrissey
homework,
song.
Faye, for next episode is to write that song and then perform it.
Monty Python songs in the style of Morrissey about screws, nuts and bolts. Now, do you ever get confused between a nut and a bolt?
No.
Do you know what I mean by a nut and a bolt?
Not really, no.
Oh, okay.
You better
Nuts and
explain it,
bolts.
Deech.
So a bolt is like a screw, but with no pointy bit at the end.
It's like a screw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like flat end.
Yeah. So you're not.
Yeah.
So it's going into a pre-drilled hole,
Okay.
and the nut
Yes.
is the circular. Well, so let's say hexagonal bit at the far end, which tightens it together.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but people get confused as to which is the nut and which is the bolt. Like people get confused as to which is the pestle and which is the mortar.
I was going to say pestle and mortar is the classic, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I still struggle with
Yeah.
which is the pestle, which is the mortar. Anybody like to say?
I don't know, and you can tell me now. And by next week,
Nobody knows.
No, it's
That's the pestle, the grinding.
Oh,
folder
okay,
thing.
Faye knows.
I think
Faye
so.
knows.
You think so?
Yeah.
No, you're not saying it
Not
with
sure.
the kind of
No,
authority
you've
I'd
made
want.
me doubt myself.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Dollman's podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure
Thank you for being
working
with
here
us.
with Deech and Faye, my lovely, lovely co-presenters. But it's time for us to now become enemies as we vote on our favourite thing in this episode. So, Deech, would you like to go first? Because I'm
yes.
very excited.
Well, okay. So for my favourite fact is from myself, and that
He always votes for himself.
I know. Have you noticed
Yeah,
that?
he came up with this competition,
Yeah.
and he always
Yes.
votes for himself.
Yeah.
I
Just gonna-
think you'll have in the last episode I voted for you.
Did you?
Mate.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So there we go. I've outfacted your fact.
Yeah, but I didn't win, did I?
Yeah, well, that's on you. The Wyatt brothers inventing the tool which makes the screw is my fact of the day. I
That's
think
your fact
you
of the
could
day, okay.
you could bring that into a dinner party. You sat on a table. Oh, I see this table doesn't have any dovetail joints. It's been screwed together. Where do you think the screws? When do you think screws were invented? Boom, dinner party, next level.
Yeah. All the guests would have left
Yeah.
by then, but
So
never
dull.
mind. Faye, what about you?
I really liked your fact about Hitchhikers was a radio drama before a book.
Oh, okay.
Didn't know
Good
that.
second place. That's a
Yeah.
good second place.
Yeah.
Second place.
Well, that's good.
Cheeky git.
And I have to say that I like the fact that you completely dissed your husband on air with his lists. I mean, poor old husband. I obviously I know your husband very well. He's a lovely guy, but the fact is he needs to stop reading his lists at breakfast. So I'll go for that.
Okay,
So-
so three-way split.
Three-way split. So does that mean I've got the casting vote?
You've
again?
always got the casting vote, Dave.
Okay. Well, this is terrible, but I'm actually going to go for Douglas Adams, and the fact that
Okay.
the fact that I'm going for is the fact that he was a writer for Doctor Who. Because I think
yes.
that's a little known fact.
That's a belter, actually, to be fair.
So Douglas Adams is the winner this week. Well done, Douglas, and well done me.
Well done, Dave. Well done, Dave.
And well done, listeners, for listening.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
persevering.
And not falling off to sleep.
Making it this far. So thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Don Man's Podcast.
Episode 22.
It is episode 22. We'll be back very soon with another episode. So subscribe, tell your friends, keep listening. Let's spread the word.
Well, I learnt the other day you don't actually need egg yolk to make mayonnaise.
Wow.
That is literally is just a bonding agent to make it more sort of gelatine-like.
So would you just use glue instead?
Yeah.
It's not.
You can use... that would work.